Welcome to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I am Dr. Nicole Tatro, and I'm here to help you unleash your peak performance and dominate your sport with fierce confidence and unstoppable energy. Whether you're a high-level athlete, a dedicated parent, a coach, or an agent, this podcast is for you. Get ready for ultimate strategies, expert insights, and cutting-edge tips that will take your game to the next level. We'll also cover personalized blood work analysis to provide unique insights that can transform your performance. We'll explore personalized health, optimized nutrition, and powerful recovery techniques. Whether you're on the ice, the field, or in the gym, together, we'll unlock your true potential and make your athletic dreams a reality. Let's do this, because greatness is within you, and it's time to unleash it. All right. Welcome back to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Tatro, and today I have a special treat for you all because you don't have to just listen to me talk all day long. I have my new friend, Laurie Hammer, with us. Laurie and I met in a mutual mentorship group recently, and I think we became fast friends, energetically anyway, through virtual worlds. Laurie is a functional nutritional therapist and neuronutrient specialist, and I'm so excited to have you on, Laurie. I think it would be better if you tell us a little bit about what you have going on in your world so that I don't ruin it.
You couldn't ruin it, Nicole. Thanks for having me on. This is really great. I love talking to athletes and parents and coaches and all those kind of things. So my main thing that I do is amino acid therapy. And that's where we balance the brain. We fix the deficiencies in the brain for anyone struggling with anxiety, depression, over-responsive stress reactions, and then like autoimmune conditions and things that go along with all of that stuff.
It's super fascinating. That's why I wanted you on as soon as possible, because think about athletes. So my world is high-level athletes, and especially in my world, we have a lot of hockey players in my family. So think about, the head contact and injuries in that way. So immediately when I met you and knew what you had going on, I was like, we need to talk, because I think this is huge for athletes. And it's not just hockey, almost any sport that is competitively, high demand. I feel like this will be beneficial for them. So I'm really excited to have you dive in a little bit, and I feel free to give us a little bit of the science too, because I think that's cool. At least I'll nerd out on it.
Yeah. So when I say amino acid therapy, it's amino acids make up protein chains, right? And so basically we're just feeding the brain with little pieces of protein. And so what happens is our brain gets depleted, whether it's from, a stress. So stress can be chemical, physical, or emotional. So you're just talking about head trauma, right? Concussions or those types of things is certainly something that can deplete our brain. Just stress in general. You're working with these high-level athletes, and there's a lot of demand on them. So things get burned out really quickly. And if we don't fix those deficiencies, right, all of a sudden, you don't have an appropriate stress response. You're overwhelmed. You're anxious. You can't sleep at night anymore. It's hard to take a deep breath and just kind of let things roll. You have those athletes that are just like such perfectionists that it turns into maybe some like OCD issues, or, there's lots of different things when our body gets depleted. And so often we're medicating those, but we can't medicate away a deficiency. We actually have to fix the deficiency.
Exactly.
And the beautiful thing about amino acid therapy is that it's just protein. So it's not going to alter, if they have to do any testing, those kind of things. And so when I'm working with anyone, especially when we're talking about mood, because we want to balance the mood. Because if we start below the neck, it's really hard to fix things, because if the brain is not calm, then everything else is not calm in the body. So when we're working on mood, stress response, anxiety, depression, I concentrate on 4 specific areas, 4 specific neurotransmitters in the brain. And the first one will be serotonin. The second one will be GABA. The third will be endorphins. The fourth is going to be catecholamines, and that's going to be your dopamine pathway, right? And so we want to go to each of those areas and find very specific amino acids in therapeutic doses to boost those areas so that your brain actually works.
So Laurie, if we were some of my athletes that may be listening, and I think about my kids, So I have a 19-year-old, like you said, type A, like he is driven. I have to hold him back a little bit. I said, you need a rest day, those kinds of things. I also have a 17-year-old, not quite at the same level as his older brother. And then I also have a 13-year-old who is wanting to be in their same footsteps. So high level athlete. So this might be putting you on the spot, but is there a way you could reframe what you just said to talk to those, maybe a younger teenage athlete in how could you make them know? I mean, obviously they have some science classes, right?
Yeah.
But would that be putting you on the spot, or could you,
No,
would
no,
you help
absolutely not.
help
Yes.
them understand in like you and I are like, we'll nerd out with this stuff, but how would they understand what all those four things that you were just talking about?
Yeah. So we go back to the serotonin. Okay. So we want to divide your brain into 4 parts. So first part, serotonin. That's where you feel happy. That's your happy brain hormone. You just feel good. Like everything feels like sunshine. Like you're just happy. You're elated. If that's depleted, that's when you're going to start getting lots more anxious, right? Maybe you're trying, I just feel funky. I feel depressed. Like I don't have a lot of, want to go to practice today. Or maybe you're OCD and you're thinking compulsively. You got all these thoughts rolling around in your brain about one specific thing or a couple of things. You can't let it go. You're very perfectionist. And so sometimes when you're a perfectionist, you think about what's not perfect in your world, right? Or you have a hard time at the end of the day. You just have a hard time relaxing. It's hard to like be satisfied with food. So you maybe have more extra food cravings. You're craving sugar. You're craving starches. Maybe you're craving something to help you to feel happier. But you don't want to use, any other substances. And so it's kind of like this really hard time. Maybe you have a hard time falling asleep at night because your brain doesn't stop, or you just lay there and you're just like, I just can't fall asleep. Maybe you're the kid that wakes up in the middle of the night and then can't get back to sleep. So there's lots of different things that can go on, or your brain is hyperactive, like it's bouncing around from thing to thing. Those can all be signs of a serotonin deficiency. Okay. So the second fourth of your brain would be the endorphins. So endorphin is like that inner joy. So we've got the sunshine and then we've got the joy. And the joy is just, gosh, life is good. You're happy about your performance, like, yay. Even if you didn't win, it's still okay. Right?
Don't we all want that? We're coming off of, we had a huge tournament. At the time of this recording, we had a tournament with my 13-year-old and her teammates. And we lost in the championship yesterday.
Oh,
so it's interesting when you say that, like, just because, you should be happy even if you lost. We didn't have a lot of that.
You still have that inner joy where it doesn't ruin you, right? Yeah. Another thing about the endorphins is if you get sensitive to emotional pain or physical pain, like you feel like you have an overreaction, you could be low in endorphins, right? Or some chronic pain issues, those can be endorphin related. And so we want to boost that joy in you. And so then we do specific amino acids for that. The third quarter of your brain would be the catecholamines. And catecholamines are, you just really, I don't feel like going to practice today. I can't concentrate. Coach is telling me all this stuff and I just can't concentrate. I can't seem to like wrap my brain around what I need to do because it's just so busy here and busy there. Or you're working on other things and all you're thinking about is something else. So you're having a hard time concentrating, that kind of that ADD stuff that you just can't turn off. Maybe you just feel you're craving something for energy. You're just so tired. Like you've got 3 practices, in the next few days, and you're like, I just don't have energy for it. Your energy is normally 10 and now you're down to 5. So catecholamines, so helping you focus, helping you to really want to do what's in front of you because you like it, but you just don't feel like doing it, right? And then the fourth category would be the GABA. And GABA is where you can take a deep breath and let it go. You can just let things roll off your back. You're not affected by criticism. You're like, okay, coach, I got it. That didn't hurt my feelings. I'll take what you told me and I'll try to make improvements. It doesn't ruin your day. You don't feel overwhelmed by the pressure. You are just kind of looking forward to the challenge instead of, not looking forward to having more things thrown at you. And then on top of that, I want to make sure that your glucose is regulated so that your blood sugar issues, and most kids know, they've heard of blood sugar, but so that your body doesn't go up and down. So we want to make sure you have enough protein and enough fats so that everything stays stable. So the when I say the glucose regulation is kind of like having the log on the fire in your body. So if your blood sugar stays stable, your glucose is stable, your brain will stay stable, your muscles will stay stable, your energy stays stable. So we want to combine all of that together so that your brain is working optimally. Was that helpful?
Yeah, I love that analogy. And I think that is super critical for our athletes because I see it all too much at all ends of the spectrum. Because, like I said, I have a lot of experience with the older teenage, early 20 somethings in that high level,
Yeah.
crucial, brutal kind of stage in their career. And then the ones that are just kind of entering that higher level, higher demand. So I think that's really, really big. And you and I both know that it ties into nutrient timing, what they're fueling their body with. And we could go on for days talking about this stuff. But this is very, very fascinating how it's all connected.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I've
Oh,
been looking at
absolutely.
a lot of
Yeah.
athletes' blood work and looking at their glucose, and I'm seeing several of them are in the low range. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very, very interesting, amongst other things. We won't get into that on this show, but it's very fascinating. So very helpful. That's amazing. So
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah,
And it's so important that your brain is balanced, right? So because if your brain doesn't work, like I always say, brain first, nothing below the deck will really heal unless you have the appropriate amino acids. And amino acids are critical to your enzyme production, for your muscles, for your brain, for the tears in your eyeballs, for your cells. Like everything has an amino acid foundation. And so when you're deficient, we just really need to boost those things up.
that's incredible. I think that's amazing, and I really hope people are hearing that because everything needs to function in harmony. I preach
Mhm.
that all the time. And in my practice, in my in-person practice, I do a lot of manual work. And we talk about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous
Yeah.
system all day, every day, because I like what you said. It's like if we can't, I know your analogy is like head up, right? And then below the neck. But it's like I always tell my patients, you aren't able to heal well or properly until we can balance out that parasympathetic nervous system and
Right.
calm the sympathetic nervous system down, which all of us have issues with, I would safely say,
Hmm.
sometimes in our lives. I don't know many people in my world that have that down perfectly. But
Yeah.
if we're not, you know, getting that resting, healing, and digestion system properly working, then we aren't able to heal at all either. Like it's very fascinating. That's why I'm so passionate about this, not just this group of people to work with, but this way of working with them. Like they can
Mhm.
train all day, right, Laurie? Like they can go and they can get the best skills coach, the best strength and conditioning coach. They can find the best team to get themselves on. Maybe they get themselves in the starting lineup, but it's like there will be a downfall eventually. Like our body can't do it unless we have that internal health. So
Right, exactly.
super
And I think,
fascinating.
when you're young, you can push yourself way more than say you and I can.
Exactly.
Um, but it does catch up with you. So I think this is the prime time. And not just speaking to the athletes, but the parents and coaches that are listening. Like, yeah, we can push our kids, and if they want to excel, then obviously, yes, let's do everything we can to get them to the level that they want to go to. But in the meantime, because kids aren't going to think of it, right? We have to make sure that they are sufficient and not deficient in, all their nutrition. So I am such a stickler on your food is your foundation, and I see so many athletes that come into my office or on Zoom or whatever, and I'm like, okay, we cannot eat those things because that is not feeding your brain, it's not feeding your muscles. And so you are deficient. And I know you're finding that too in, blood work and other testing and stuff that's done. But we have to fix those deficiencies because if we don't, they can make it to a high level athlete, right? But just think how much higher they could be and how much longer they could sustain that, right? Um, so it
I
is so important. And if you have a head injury, oh my gosh, we really, really, really have to hit those amino acids head on in order for your body to rebuild and repair. So you don't have it's a piece of the puzzle. It's a big piece of the puzzle, but we want to prevent, later issues from all those concussions.
think that's what it is. Like if the kids need to realize that they're not invincible
Mm-hmm.
but they don't believe us. And because I tell my kids every day, there's certain things that, because my household's not perfect. I give them the education. I'm not perfect either, but it's like we have to do it now to build that foundation. Like so many people understand that concept, of if you don't, you can't build a house on sand, right? I don't know if that's even true.
Yeah.
It's like it will fall apart eventually. And that's exactly how I feel. And I look back at mine, I was a high level athlete myself in high school. And then I actually continued playing 2 sports at a Division I college. And
Wow.
I went through like biology and physical therapy in grad school. It was insane. And it was like trauma. Like I totally did not eat well. I did not heal well. I was sick often. I pushed anyway. I was decent. But I look back and I'm like, what could I have accomplished?
Yeah.
What would my bar have been, if I had known this stuff now? And I'm not upset with myself because I didn't know. You know what you know.
Yeah,
Okay?
you don't know what you know. Yeah.
That's why I want us, you and I and our colleagues to shout this out at the rooftops because this would bring everybody up if we all knew this stuff, and if we implemented it.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me.
It is. And when I was just helping, I don't know if you follow rowing at all, but I just had a team of 4 women. They just did the toughest row. So they rowed from California to Hawaii and they just
Wow.
finished. And so, I was help coaching them and finding, foods and all those kind of things for the row and that kind of stuff. And, it makes such a big difference. They came in 5th. And so that was really great. I forget how many, there was like 30 some teams or something. But anyway, so they did really well. But you still have to have the nutrition that's an elite athlete pushing beyond.
Right.
And we have to rebuild them because it was such an extreme row. That was 34 days on the
I can't
ocean.
even imagine. Wow.
Right? You can't even imagine. And, they're texting me like, okay, I got this going on. I got this going on. And our foundation is always going to be going back to those amino acids. And then, we come in and support, the digestive system that who knows what happened to them out there. But my point is that yes, you can push your body and push your body and push your body, but you have to keep giving it the building blocks, and the building blocks are the amino acids. And then we dive into, the liver and the kidneys and the stomach and all that kind of stuff. But you have to have the foundation.
It's funny when I started my my holistic nutrition training with precision nutrition, and it's based on sports, sports nutrition. I thought for sure, I was going to go in there as a professional. I'm going to learn all these next level, high level stuff, right? Like all these supplements and you and I both know that I'm not bashing supplements because I really believe in high quality ones. So what I'm getting here is, or where I'm going with this is that's not what we learned as professional practitioners in the beginning. That's why I fell in love with them, because they are about building the foundation as well. So that's why I went crazy into their education and furthering my education with that about, you have to do the basics consistently. So, you and I can talk all these fancy things, but if you are feeding that body junk, I'm sorry, it's junk. If it's processed junk, that's what's eventually going to come out. Or if you have good genes, it'll buy you some time. But just though, hopefully this intrigues people to think, wow, like if you're given good genes and you don't feed it junk, you imagine where your peak might be. So very cool. So Laurie, I don't want to take a lot of your time here, but I'm wondering if you could tell us maybe just a brief, like maybe an example of, so you gave it the example of the rowers, but what if someone came in and they were feeding their foundation well enough, you thought it was decent? Is there any way you could dive a little bit more about the amino acid therapy that you do? Or have we kind of touched a lot of it? I don't know if it gets too deep, if it's...
Yeah, well, I'll just tell you, like if somebody comes into my office, right, and this is what happens, because I always do a full neural assessment on them, and that includes the amino acid therapy assessment, okay? And so I have them fill out a form. We don't do blood work. We don't do urine testing for the amino acids. I have them fill out a form because I found over the years that it's actually better to do based on symptomology than opposed to urine or blood work testing for this particular area. I do a lot of urine and blood work testing.
Exactly, I know, and that's how we connected.
That's how we connected. So so I have people fill out a questionnaire, a scale of 1 to 10, what's going on with you, serotonin, endorphins, GABA, catecholamines, then we look at glucose levels. That's where we start all the time. And so if somebody's on a good diet, great, we'll probably tweak it a little bit, because I have never had an athlete come into my office that was eating enough protein and enough healthy fats.
Yes, thank you.
Always address
I'm like, can we do the mic drop? Like, is that...
Exactly. I've never had an athlete who was eating enough protein or eating enough healthy fats.
And I'm going to have further episodes. You'll love this. I'll have Mike Reese on very soon as a guest, and he and I have gone back and forth about this thing with protein. There's also about the timing and how much at one time. So we won't get into that now, but I just want to pique people's interest that protein is huge when it comes to athletes because they think they need more, but it's like we need to spread it out too. But it's like they're not having enough in their 24 hours. So anyway, I just that was just interesting when you said that because I'm finding that as well.
Oh yeah, it's key. Especially boys are better, girls are not. So and they, then they lose their period, and then they get the anxiousness and the depression and stuff.
It's like a cascade of events.
It is a cascade of events. So I mean, most of the people that come into my practice, they're women or they're girls, right? But I do work with a few boys and men as well. But they come in and they fill out the form, and then we start trialing, is what I call it, trialing the amino acids. And I learned this from the pioneers in the amino acid industry. But basically, we open up a capsule of whatever specific amino acid we want to take, whether it's based on serotonin or GABA or whatever. Put it under the tongue, and then we stare awkwardly at each other for a couple minutes. And because I'm waiting to see, do you feel something different cognitively, emotionally, or physically? So we want to know if there's a difference. Has that made a difference in your brain? Has that made a difference in how you feel, how you carry yourself? Sometimes I'll have the kids walk around and like, oh, I feel taller, or they might see
wow,
things.
Very interesting.
And say like, your blue is bluer and your green is greener. Or, the brain just gets sharper and you feel lighter, your eyes get brighter. You feel really focused. So there's lots of different things that can happen during this process. And I love doing it this way because it's an immediate response in the body. Like, yes, my body needs this, or I don't think so, So I love doing it that way. And the kids really can kind of hone in on that.
It's simple. Simple for them. Simple. I know there's a lot on the backside of it, but
yeah, but
that's
simple. You just
cool.
Powder doesn't always taste that fantastic. You put it under your tongue. Nobody's ever thrown up. It's fine. Well, and athletes are willing to do it. Which I love working with athletes. They're really fun. So
I know, hence why I've kind of shifted my career focus because I still work with my moms, right? But it's just who I am, and then I'm always fielding the questions from my actual high level athletes. So it's just thrown me into this, like, I have to go here. I have to give it a shot, right, with these athletes because I just think there's so much potential. And that's why I want to work with the ones that really want it, because I feel like those are the ones that are going to do what it takes. Now, still not perfect, right? But at least there's cause and effect, right? We give them, if they trust us, and we give them what will happen if they're eating a bag of Doritos, in between games versus, another protein and high level fat, then I think they're going to really, understand that.
Recovery is going to be better. They're just going to feel better overall. And, and you're going to sleep better. You're going to sleep more sound. You're going to get better REM sleep. You're going to get better deep sleep. There's so many factors when we have food as the foundation, we incorporate the amino acids, and then, finding all the crazy things that you find in the blood work for them. So, I mean, it all works together, and it's a beautiful picture. I love, watching people when they trial the amino acids, they're like, I didn't know I could feel this happy. I didn't know I could feel this way. My brain hasn't felt this way in years. I love it when they walk away from the appointment saying, I haven't felt this good in years. And so that's
incredible. I think I need to come see you too. Because I push and I push and I push. And like I said, I'm very, very transparent with my listeners, with my patients, my family. I am not perfect when it comes to any of this stuff because that's what makes me real, I think, right? And I feel like you do the same thing because it is hard. It is so hard to do all the things and all the information out there. And I think that's why you and I haven't mentioned that Laurie hosts her own podcast, Take Back My Brain.
Take Back My Brain.
It's amazing. And she has incredible guests on there. It's been really amazing. You're doing a great job on that podcast. So I suggest you all take a listen to that, especially if you're listening to this one. I'd love for you to add that following in there. But I just feel that we need to get this information out there because there are
Yeah.
so many people that need to hear this, because I think I mentioned it a few minutes ago. It's like, you only know what you know. And that's how I feel. I did the best I could when I had to wait after school because practice didn't start and we lived far from the high school. So I would have a Snickers because in my mind, I thought
know,
I
me
was
too.
having protein because there were
Yep.
peanuts in there. So I was
Snickers
proud of myself.
Well, come on.
Yeah, right? And I mean, and of course the marketing, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me started. Like, I grew up when this is like, we didn't know. And, it's like, I'm not trying to make my parents feel bad here, but, we grew up
No.
on a farm and it's like we had the real milk. And I do believe that was helpful back then because it was before all the stuff that they took out of it. And we could go crazy with that stuff, but
We
I
could go
grew
on a
up,
tangent on that one, but yes.
yeah. I grew up when all of a sudden they started processing food, hamburger helper, right? It's easy and quick. And so the reason I'm saying all this is like, that's what fueled me. And I still was a decent athlete. So I just, I kind of like kicking myself. So that's why I'm so passionate right now with my kids. Of course, obviously my heart,
Yes.
and their friends and their teammates. Like, so I'm so excited and passionate about spreading the word. And that's why I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, because it's fascinating. It's just brilliant stuff.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And it's all foundational. So it's nothing, wonky or crazy or anything like.
Totally, totally. And then the terminology I'm using is knowing your internal stats. It's kind of the same thing, knowing where you're at with those amino acids. But the same with mine. It's like, what are your internal stats? I just thought that was a nice play on the words with the athlete.
Right.
Because if they don't know, because we focus like all day yesterday. If I don't know if you know softball at all, but we're on Game Changer, right? I think all the sports are on Game Changer, but you can literally, we the head coach, we do have to keep a physical book for the tournament rules or whatever. He has his phone and he's on Game Changer. And till yesterday, my daughter, who's 13, she's like, I wondered why he was always on his phone. I'm like, no, Ella, he's doing stuff for it. He's entering exactly what's happening. So the stats are in there. That's my whole point. It's like, we know how many at-bats you had, how many strikeouts, how many walks, what's the ERA, what's all of that. But if we don't know the internal stats, at one point, none of that's going to matter. Because it's not going to be able to do it. Good, right? I mean, there would be a point where, extreme cases of your rowers, if they weren't doing, I can't imagine they couldn't get where they are at without doing the good things. But imagine they didn't, their body would literally shut down. Like,
well, yeah. And I have one of the rowers. She was a D1 rower. And they just, God bless all you D1 athletes. That's all I have to say, is because you are put through the ringer for sure. A lot. And she and I had the conversation and she's like, I said, you need at least a 1 or 2 year break from any major rows, because her body is not, because she just started working with me. And so she's really depleted. And she went on this row and she made it, but she's really sick at the end, because her body is just, it's exhausted.
Because now what?
She's only 24.
Oh my goodness. See?
He's not like, we don't even know how many.
But so, I can relate back. I mean, I'm old now, but I can relate back to then. Like, I was already feeling tired and sick. And I wonder if the knowledge that you and I know now, Laurie, like if we were to take a look at my blood work then, which I didn't even get blood work because nobody told me to do that, right? That's what I'm going to have to encourage a lot of my athletes. Like, they're healthy. I mean, we don't have time, but my kid's doctor, I'm not calling him out. He's great, but he even said, oh, they're good. They don't need it. And I politely, disagreed, and we ended up getting some blood work. But it's like, they do, because let's catch these things. Then we could go
catch them early so that when you're 40, you're not sitting in my office because you've got 4 autoimmune disease. You can't sleep. You don't even have a sex drive anymore. You don't like your husband. You don't like, let's do that.
I totally know what you mean.
Let's address it now before you get to 40 and you feel like you've totally collapsed.
Totally get it. That's amazing. So, Laurie, let's, while we wrap it up here, is there anything else that you'd want to leave us with? Anything that you could think of that would be awesome to finish on? I know, because you and I mean, we have to cut it off because
we do have to cut it off. Treat your body well. Focus on the foundations and, I believe, balance your amino acids, because if you don't, there's lots of consequences. You can try everything else, but you have to have the foundations first.
Totally agree. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for
And if
having
you
me
want
today.
to just a second of telling people where they can find you, I will put your information in the show notes so that people can find you, because it's an abundant. We need everybody in this world. So I'd
Yes,
love to share your information.
I'm Laurie Hammer, the Calm Mom, on Instagram, Facebook. You'll find me lauriehammer.com. And I look forward to chatting with some of you.
Awesome. And I'm sure I'm going to beg you to come on again because we have more to talk about. Thank you
Sounds
so
good.
much, Laurie. And thank you all for listening. And I'll catch you next time on the Elite Athlete Podcast. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I'm Dr. Nicole Tatro, and I hope you found today's episode inspiring and empowering. If you're ready to take your performance to the next level, don't miss out on my free instant access 3-day workshop series. Elevate your game and dominate your sport. In this workshop, you'll discover natural recovery secrets, blood work insights, and the truth about supplements to help you achieve peak performance. Sign up for instant access today and start your journey to becoming the elite athlete you're destined to be. Visit the link in the show notes and join now. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share it with fellow athletes, parents, coaches, and agents. Your support helps us spread the word and elevate the game for many more athletes just like you. Remember, you have the power to achieve greatness. Let's do this together. Until next time, keep pushing your limits and stay unstoppable.